My fiancée confessed she cheated with her ex because she thought it was normal while we were celebrating. So I told her to go to hell and got my payback. Now she's on her knees crying and begging to fix everything. Hey Reddit, my name is Tyler, and I'm 31 years old. I've been dating Jessica, who's 28, for exactly 4 years as of last week. We just had our anniversary dinner at Bella Vista, the same Italian restaurant where we had our first date back when we were in college. This place holds so much significance for us. I'd been planning this particular dinner for weeks, making sure everything would be perfect. I made reservations for 7:30 p.m. at our usual table by the window. Over the years, we've probably sat at that exact same table around 60 times. It's honestly become our spot at this point. The hostess always remembers us when we walk in, asks how we're doing, makes small talk, the whole deal. It feels like being part of a family when we go there. For this anniversary, I wanted to do something really special. I bought Jessica this beautiful Tiffany bracelet that cost me $2,800, which is honestly a lot of money for someone like me working as a marketing coordinator. But I figured 4 years together deserved something truly special, something that would show her how much she means to me. I'd actually been saving up for this bracelet for months, setting aside money little by little because I wanted to get her something that would take her breath away. When we arrived at Bella Vista that night, something felt off immediately. The moment we walked through the door and she saw our usual table, her whole mood seemed to shift. Throughout the appetizer course, she kept checking her phone constantly, which isn't like her at all during our dinner dates. She barely touched her eggplant parmigiana, which is usually her absolute favorite dish at the restaurant. This is a girl who can demolish a plate of pasta like nobody's business. But that night, she was just pushing the food around with her fork, looking distracted and anxious. She seemed incredibly nervous too, constantly fidgeting with her napkin and looking around the restaurant as if she was expecting someone to walk in at any moment. I kept asking her if everything was okay, trying to figure out what was wrong, but she just kept giving me these short responses like, "Yeah, fine," in that tone that women use when absolutely nothing is fine. You know exactly what I'm talking about. That clipped, distant tone that immediately tells you something is seriously wrong. I initially thought maybe she was stressed about work or something. Her supervisor has been a real pain in the ass lately, making everyone work extra hours because they're short-staffed at the bank. Jessica has been covering additional shifts and dealing with angry customers all day about their account balances and loan applications getting denied. Banking can be incredibly stressful, so I figured that might be what was bothering her. Since she seemed so down, I decided this would be the perfect moment to cheer her up with the anniversary gift. We had just finished our entrees, and I thought the timing couldn't be better. I pulled out the little Tiffany box and slid it across the table with this huge smile on my face, so excited to see her reaction. "Happy 4 years, babe," I said, watching her face light up, or so I thought. She opened the box and looked at the bracelet for maybe 3 seconds. Then she just closed the box without saying a word. She didn't even try it on, didn't say thank you, nothing. She just sat there staring at the closed box like it was going to explode or something. That's when I knew something was seriously, deeply wrong. This is a girl who gets genuinely excited about jewelry from Target. And here I was presenting her with a $2,800 Tiffany piece, and she could barely look at it. That's when she said those words that I'll never forget. "Tyler, I need to tell you something." That tone. You guys know that tone. Nothing good ever starts with that tone. It's the same tone your mom used when she was about to tell you that your childhood dog had died, or the tone your high school girlfriend used right before she dumped you for the quarterback. My stomach just dropped immediately, like I was on a roller coaster that had just gone over the highest peak. "Okay, what's up?" I managed to ask, though I could already feel my heart racing. "I slept with Brandon last weekend." Just like that. No build-up, no gentle way of breaking the news, no explanation. Just straight to the point, like she was telling me what she had for lunch. Brandon is her ex-boyfriend. They dated for about 3 years before we got together. I always thought that was ancient history, something that was completely behind us. The guy's a personal trainer now, all muscles and protein shakes, but I never saw him as any kind of threat to our relationship. I just sat there for what felt like an eternity, trying to process what she had just said. The restaurant noise around us seemed to fade into the background. Other couples laughing and having their normal anniversary dinners, while mine was literally exploding right in front of me. I could hear the couple at the table next to us talking excitedly about their upcoming cruise plans, while I was sitting there finding out that my girlfriend of 4 years had been cheating on me. "When you said you were at your cousin's place, I finally asked, piecing together the timeline in my head. Yeah, last weekend. The weekend she told me she was going to spend Saturday night at her cousin Lisa's place because Lisa was supposedly having relationship problems with her fiancé and needed some girl time. She came home Sunday evening acting all weird and distant, claiming she was just tired from staying up late talking with Lisa about her problems. I had even asked if everything was okay with Lisa and her situation, and Jessica just brushed it off saying, "Yeah, they worked things out." Why? I asked, though I wasn't sure I really wanted to hear the answer. Here's the part that really got to me. She didn't look sorry at all. She didn't look guilty or remorseful or ashamed. If anything, she looked almost annoyed that I was asking questions, like I was bothering her by wanting to understand why my girlfriend of 4 years had just confessed to cheating on me during our anniversary dinner. I needed closure, Tyler, she said, as if that explained everything. I've been thinking about him a lot recently. It was just one night. What's the big deal? What's the big deal? She cheated on me and then asked what's the big deal, like she had borrowed my car without asking or forgotten to pick up milk from the store. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. You planned this, I said, and it wasn't really a question. I could see it in her eyes, in the way she had been acting. I wouldn't call it planning, she replied, but I could tell by the way she said it that this wasn't some spur-of-the-moment decision. I just needed to figure out my feelings. For the past 7 weeks, she had been acting completely different. Distant, claiming to work late more often, constantly glued to her phone even when we were together. Now it all made perfect sense. She had been planning this whole thing, thinking about it, probably texting Brandon and setting up a time to meet. This wasn't some accident or moment of weakness. This was calculated. You're being dramatic, she continued, and I could hardly believe the words coming out of her mouth. At least I told you instead of hiding it. Most girls would just keep it secret. You should be grateful I'm being honest. Grateful. I should be grateful that she cheated on me and then told me about it. The audacity was absolutely mind-blowing. Right then, our waiter came by asking if we wanted to order dessert. I couldn't even look at him. I was still trying to process everything that had just happened. Jessica just waved him away casually, like nothing had happened. Like we were just having a normal conversation about the weather or something equally mundane. So what now? I asked, genuinely curious about how she thought this was going to play out. Now nothing, it's done, she said matter-of-factly. I got my closure, so we can move on. Move on, I repeated, incredulous. Yes, Tyler. It actually made me realize that I want to be with you. Brandon and I don't have that spark anymore. You should be happy about this. I should be happy. She cheated on me, and according to her logic, I should be happy about it because she had decided she liked me better than her ex. She had used me as a backup plan while she went and tested the waters with Brandon. And now I was supposed to be grateful for being chosen as the winner of her little competition. This is exactly why I needed to see if Brandon was more mature than you're being right now, she said. And that was the final straw. That did it. I couldn't sit there and listen to another word of this insanity. I stood up from the table, reached over, and took the Tiffany box back from her. She looked surprised, like she hadn't expected me to actually do anything about the situation. I walked over to our waitress Maria, who had been serving us for the past 3 years. She knows us by name, always asks about our jobs, and remembers little details like how I prefer extra Parmesan on my salad. Maria has basically watched our entire relationship unfold at this restaurant. Hey Maria, I said, and she looked up with that familiar warm smile she always gave us. My girlfriend just told me she needed closure sex with her ex-boyfriend for our anniversary, I announced, loud enough for the nearby tables to hear. This is yours now. I handed her the $2,800 bracelet, and her eyes went wide with shock. She tried to give it back to me, clearly uncomfortable with the situation, but I was already walking toward the exit. I could hear conversations at nearby tables stopping as people turned to look at the drama unfolding. Tyler, what the hell are you doing? Jessica called out from behind me. She was still sitting at the table, probably in complete disbelief that I was actually leaving. Enjoy paying for dinner, I called back without turning around. I left her there with a $210 check and no way to pay for it, since I had driven us to the restaurant in my car. She would have to figure out how to get home on her own. I didn't look back, but I could hear her calling my name as I walked out the door and into the parking lot. I got in my car and just drove around for about an hour, trying to process everything that had just happened. My mind was racing. 4 years of my life, gone in an instant because she needed closure. I kept replaying the conversation in my head, her casual attitude about the whole thing, the way she acted like I was being unreasonable for being upset about it. I finally got home around 10:15 p.m. and sat in my driveway for about 25 minutes, just staring at my house. This is my house, by the way. I bought it 3 years ago when I started making better money in my marketing career. The mortgage is in my name. The deed is in my name. Everything. Jessica has been staying here most nights for the past year and a half, but she never officially moved in. She still has her own apartment across town that she mainly uses for storage now. The thing is, I really thought we were building something permanent together. She has a drawer in my dresser, takes up half the closet space, her shampoo bottles are lined up in my shower. Her expensive espresso machine sits on my kitchen counter because she's particular about her coffee and said mine wasn't good enough. There are pictures of us together all over the walls. It felt like we were practically living together without the official paperwork, like we were basically married except for the legal documentation. I had actually been planning to propose to her soon. I'd been looking at engagement rings online for the past few months, thinking about how to do it properly. Maybe on a vacation somewhere romantic, or perhaps back at Bella Vista, where our whole relationship had started. I had this whole vision of our future together. The house, the wedding, kids eventually. All of that was gone now, destroyed by her need for closure. My phone started going off around 10:45 p.m. Text after text from Jessica, and I could see her getting more and more agitated with each message. How could you embarrass me like that in front of everyone? Maria probably thinks I'm a horrible person now. You left me stranded there. I had to call an Uber and it cost me $42. Answer your phone. We need to talk about this like adults. You're being completely childish about this whole situation. I didn't answer any of them. I just went inside and tried to watch TV, but I couldn't focus on anything. I kept thinking about how casual she had been about the entire thing, like she genuinely couldn't understand why I was upset. The way she said, "What's the big deal?" kept replaying in my head over and over again. And the fact that she had planned it all out. She had spent weeks thinking about it, probably texting Brandon, setting up a time to meet, lying to me about where she was going. That takes real calculation and deliberate deception. This wasn't some moment of weakness or a mistake made in the heat of the moment. This was a conscious choice she made repeatedly over several weeks. Around 12:30 a.m., I heard her car pulling into the driveway. That old Toyota Camry she's had since college that she refuses to replace, even though the air conditioning doesn't work properly and the radio only picks up AM stations. Then I heard her key in the lock, and I'd already decided that tomorrow I would be changing those locks, so this would be the last time that key would work. She came storming through the door immediately, still wearing the same navy blue dress from dinner. Ironically, a dress that I had bought for her birthday last year. She didn't even pause to catch her breath before launching into a tirade about how I had embarrassed her in front of everyone at the restaurant, how Maria was probably going to tell all the other staff what had happened, and how humiliating the whole experience had been for her. The audacity was absolutely incredible. She was mad at me for embarrassing her after she had just confessed to cheating on me at our anniversary dinner. I pointed out that it wasn't nearly as humiliating as finding out that your girlfriend of 4 years thinks cheating is no big deal, but she just rolled her eyes like I was being overdramatic. That's when she hit me with the closure defense again. She insisted that she didn't actually cheat, that what she did with Brandon was somehow different because it had a purpose behind it, like the motivation somehow changed what had actually happened between them. She kept pushing this twisted idea that sleeping with her ex wasn't really cheating because she had some noble reason for doing it. I made it clear that there really wasn't a difference. Cheating is cheating, regardless of whatever justification she wanted to come up with. But she kept going on about how ridiculous I was being, how I had given away a $2,800 bracelet just to prove some petty point. I told her straight up that she didn't deserve it, which set her off even more. She kept emphasizing that it was just one night with Brandon, like that somehow made it better. Like if it was just one night instead of some ongoing affair, I should be perfectly okay with it. As if there's some acceptable amount of cheating that I'm supposed to tolerate in a relationship. That's when I told her to pack her stuff and leave. She actually looked shocked, like she hadn't even considered that this might be the natural consequence of her actions. She started arguing about how we lived together and had built a life together. But that's when it hit me. How smart I had been without even realizing it. I had never put her name on anything. I had never officially moved her in. She had no legal claim to my house whatsoever. She kept insisting that she wasn't going anywhere, that I couldn't just kick her out over this. She started going on about how we had been together for 4 years, and that had to mean something. how we had a whole life together, and how I couldn't just throw it all away over one mistake. But here's the thing. It wasn't a mistake. A mistake is forgetting to pay a bill or accidentally deleting an important email. This was a deliberate choice, actually a whole series of choices made over several weeks. She had to think about it, plan it, lie about it, and then follow through with it. That's not a mistake. That's a calculated decision. So I called the police. "Hi, I need someone removed from my property," I said into the phone. "She doesn't live here legally and won't leave when I've asked her to." "You're calling the cops on me?" She jumped up from the couch, her voice getting higher and more frantic. "Are you completely insane?" "You said you weren't leaving, so now you don't have a choice in the matter," I replied calmly. She started absolutely freaking out, saying that I was crazy and that this was her home too. But legally, it absolutely wasn't. Sure, she gets mail here sometimes, but her permanent address is still listed as her apartment across town. She's never paid rent or utilities here. Her name isn't on the mortgage, the deed, or any of the household bills. Nothing. 2 police officers showed up about 20 minutes later. Both of them seemed pretty professional about the whole situation and didn't seem particularly interested in getting involved in relationship drama. I explained the situation clearly. It's my house, my mortgage, she doesn't live here officially, and I want her to leave. They asked if she had any mail coming here consistently, or if she had been staying here longer than 30 days straight without leaving. The truth is, she goes back to her apartment at least twice a week to get clothes or check on things, so she's never technically been at my place for 30 consecutive days. She stays here frequently, but it's not her legal residence. The officers asked her to gather her immediate belongings and leave the property. She tried arguing with them about relationship problems and how we were practically married, but they weren't interested in hearing about our personal drama at all. "Ma'am, if this isn't your legal residence and the homeowner wants you to leave, you need to go," one of them said firmly. She grabbed some clothes, her toothbrush, and her work clothes for the next day, all while calling me every name in the book. She stuffed everything into a grocery bag while muttering about how I was going to regret this decision, how I was making the biggest mistake of my life, and how no one would ever love me the way she did. As she was walking out the door, she turned back and said, "You're going to realize what you've lost, Tyler. Good luck finding someone who puts up with your bullshit like I did." The officers waited until she drove away before they left, and one of them handed me a card with a case number in case she tried to come back or cause any more problems. The whole thing was surreal. 4 years of my life, gone in less than 2 hours. I woke up the next morning to my phone going absolutely crazy. 19 missed calls and about 35 text messages, most of them from Jessica's family members. This was particularly weird because I usually only hear from them during holidays or birthdays. Her mom is the type who sends those long Facebook posts about how family is everything and shares those minion memes that middle-aged women love. But we've never really had many one-on-one conversations. Her mom started calling at 7:15 a.m., which is early even for her. I was barely awake and still trying to process everything that had happened the night before. For a split second, when I saw Mom on my caller ID, I forgot it wasn't my own mother and answered without thinking. The conversation was basically her telling me that Jessica had come home crying the night before and had to move back into her old childhood bedroom. Apparently, Jessica had spun some story about us having a fight and me overreacting to what she called a misunderstanding. She made it sound like I had kicked her out over something completely minor instead of, her cheating on me with her ex-boyfriend. Her mom kept saying things like, "Everyone makes mistakes, and she loves you so much. Don't throw away 4 years over one little error in judgment." I tried explaining that this wasn't a mistake or an error in judgment. She had planned this whole thing out for weeks. But her mom just kept interrupting me, saying I was being dramatic and that couples work through these kinds of things all the time. The whole conversation lasted maybe 12 minutes before I realized there was no point in continuing. She was never going to see it from my perspective because Jessica had already poisoned the well with her version of events. So I just said that Jessica made her choice and now she gets to live with the consequences, and then I hung up. Her dad called an hour later with basically the same speech. "She's a good girl, Tyler. She made an error in judgment. Don't be stubborn about this." Her dad has always been this old school guy who seems to think that men should just put up with whatever women do because that's what marriage is about. He kept using that phrase, error in judgment, like she had accidentally taken the wrong exit on the highway instead of deliberately planning to sleep with her ex-boyfriend for weeks. I blocked both of their phone numbers after that second conversation because I could already see exactly where this was heading. They were going to keep calling and texting, trying to guilt me into taking her back, probably for weeks or even months. I wasn't interested in becoming their project. But the real surprise came when my own parents called that afternoon. Apparently, Jessica's mom had called them, trying to get them to talk some sense into me. My parents are pretty private people who don't usually get involved in my relationship drama, so I was genuinely curious to hear what they had to say about all this. My dad was the one who called, which was unusual because my mom typically handles the emotional conversations in our family. "Son, we heard what happened. Are you okay?" Just hearing him ask that simple question in his calm, steady voice made me feel better immediately. I gave him the real story, the whole thing, from the anniversary dinner to calling the police. He listened without interrupting, which is what my dad does. He processes information completely before he reacts to it. "Good," he said when I finished telling him everything. "Your mother and I think you handled it exactly right. Nobody should have to put up with that kind of disrespect. We like Jessica," my mom added when she got on the phone. "We thought she was good for you for a long time. But what she did was completely wrong, and the way her family is handling this situation tells you everything you need to know about where she learned this kind of behavior." That felt really good. Having my parents actually back me up instead of trying to convince me to take back a cheater. It's funny how you don't realize how much you need that kind of support until you actually get it. Their reaction validated everything I was feeling and made me more confident that I had made the right decision. Around 6:30 p.m., another number I didn't recognize called. I answered thinking it might be work-related, since I had a big presentation coming up on Tuesday, and sometimes clients call during weekends to discuss projects. "This is Derek, Jessica's older brother," the voice said. "He's the one who's always thought he was some kind of tough guy because he works construction and drives a lifted truck with those ridiculous truck nuts hanging from the hitch. He's one of those guys who's always talking about respect and honor, but has never actually been in a real fight in his life. You left my sister stranded at a restaurant and then called the cops on her," he said, his voice getting more aggressive. "What kind of man does that?" "The kind who doesn't tolerate cheating," I replied calmly. He said that Jessica had made one mistake, and I was acting like she had killed someone. There was that word again. Mistake. Like cheating was equivalent to forgetting to take out the trash or leaving the toilet seat up. "You embarrassed her in front of everyone at that restaurant," he continued. "You're lucky I don't come over there and teach you some respect." And there it was, the threat I had been expecting all day. Derek has always been the type to try to solve problems with intimidation because he's bigger than most people. He's about 6'4" and probably weighs around 260 pounds, most of it muscle from throwing construction materials around all day. "Are you threatening me, Derek?" I asked. "I'm telling you to fix this situation before I fix it for you," he said, like he was auditioning for a bad action movie. The funny thing is, I wasn't even scared. Maybe I should have been, but I was just tired of everyone acting like I was the bad guy in this situation. Like I had somehow forced Jessica to cheat on me, and then had the audacity to be upset about it. "Derek, your sister is a grown woman who made grown-up choices," I said. "She can deal with grown-up consequences." I hung up and immediately blocked his number. The whole thing was so typical of Jessica's family. Instead of being disappointed in her for cheating, they were all mad at me for not just accepting it and moving on. Like I was supposed to be grateful that she had chosen me after her little test drive with Brandon. My cousin Kevin called around 9:15 p.m., asking what the hell was going on, because apparently the story was already making the rounds through our friend group. Kevin has always been the person I tell everything to. We grew up together, went to the same high school, and he's basically like a brother to me. "Dude, did you really give a $2,800 bracelet to your waitress?" he asked, and I could hear the disbelief in his voice. Word travels fast, especially in a town this size. Bella Vista is the kind of place where half the people eating there know each other, and Maria had probably told the whole story to anyone who would listen. "Yeah," I confirmed. "That's the most savage thing I've ever heard," he said, and I could hear him laughing. Maria posted about it on Facebook. She couldn't believe it happened. Great, so now it was on social media. But honestly, I didn't care anymore. Let everyone know exactly what Jessica did. Maybe it would save some other guy from going through the same thing I was dealing with. I went to bed that night feeling pretty good about my decision. Sure, my 4-year relationship was over, but at least I knew who my real family was and who actually had my back in this situation. The next morning, I woke up with a realization that hit me like a brick to the face. That joint savings account we had been building together for our future house and wedding. Jessica still had full access to it. And knowing her family, especially after those phone calls yesterday, They were probably advising her to take whatever money she could before I had a chance to freeze her out completely. We had opened that account about 2.5 years ago when we decided to start acting like responsible adults, saving money for a house, a wedding, a honeymoon. Basically, the whole Pinterest dream that every couple talks about. We even made a detailed spreadsheet because we thought that made us financially responsible and mature. I had been contributing between $900 and $1,100 every month for my marketing job. My take-home pay after taxes is usually somewhere between $5,200 and $5,800, depending on bonuses and overtime. Jessica had been chipping in between $450 and $550 from her bank teller position. It wasn't a huge amount, but it was steady and consistent. I had actually respected her commitment to saving, or at least I used to. The problem was that we had set up the account as a joint account where either person could make withdrawals without the other person being present. It had made sense at the time because we trusted each other completely and figured we might need quick access to the money for house-related emergencies or unexpected expenses. It seemed like the mature, committed couple thing to do back then. Now I was realizing just how incredibly stupid that decision had been. I drove to the bank during my lunch break the next day. Not Jessica's branch, though. I'm not a complete idiot. I went to the main location downtown where she doesn't work, because the last thing I needed was her coworkers getting involved in this drama or giving her a heads up that I was there asking about our account. I walked up to the first available teller, this older woman who looked like she had been working at that bank since it first opened its doors. "I need to withdraw funds from this account," I said, handing her my ID and the account information. She pulled up our account on her computer screen, and I could see her eyes widen slightly when she saw the balance displayed. $52,487, almost $52,500 that we had saved up together over more than 2 years of disciplined saving. Money that was supposed to buy us a house in a nice neighborhood, maybe even have enough left over for some decent furniture to fill it with. "This is a joint account, sir," she said hesitantly. "You'll need both parties present to make any large withdrawals." "Actually, both parties can withdraw funds independently," I corrected her. "That's exactly how joint accounts work." She looked uncertain about this and called over her supervisor. He double-checked the account terms and confirmed what I already knew. Either person on a joint account can withdraw money without the other person being present. That's literally the entire point of having a joint account in the first place. "How much would you like to withdraw today, Mr. Hayes?" the supervisor asked. I had been thinking about this exact number during the entire drive over to the bank. Our balance was $52,487 total. Over the past 3 years, I had contributed approximately $35,000 of that amount. Jessica had put in maybe $17,500, possibly a little more, but not much. Legally, I could take whatever amount I wanted. The entire balance if I felt like it. But I'm not a complete asshole, despite what Jessica's family probably thinks about me. I just wanted what was rightfully mine. "I'd like to withdraw $35,000, please," I said. The teller explained that it was considered a large withdrawal, and they would need to verify my identity thoroughly and have me sign some additional paperwork for anything over $10,000. That was fine with me. I had all the time in the world. The whole process took about an hour and 15 minutes, with all their security procedures and questions about what I planned to do with the money. I told them I was making a large purchase, which wasn't technically a lie since I was already planning to use some of it for that Europe trip I had originally planned for both of us. I walked out of that bank with a cashier's check for $35,000, leaving Jessica with the $17,487 that she had actually contributed to the account. More than fair, considering she was the one who had completely blown up our relationship for some closure with her ex-boyfriend. I drove straight to my personal bank, which is a completely different financial institution, and deposited the check into my individual account. The teller told me that the funds would be available in 2 business days, so I'd have access to the money by Thursday. Around 4:45 p.m., I was just finishing up a marketing call when my phone started buzzing. Unknown number again. I picked it up thinking it might be work-related, since I had a big client meeting coming up on Wednesday, and sometimes clients call from different phone numbers. Nope. It was Jessica calling from her workplace, since I had already blocked her personal number earlier that week. She immediately jumped into the conversation without any kind of greeting or apology, demanding to know why I had stolen $35,000 from our savings account. I reminded her that it was my money, my fair share from what we had laughingly called our future house fund. She completely freaked out, saying that she couldn't possibly buy a house with the amount that was left in the account. I told her that maybe she should have thought about that before she decided to crawl back into bed with Brandon for her so-called closure. She tried playing that one-night card again, like the limited duration somehow made the cheating less brutal and destructive. I made it crystal clear that she had completely tanked her own life with her choices, and I simply wasn't going to go down with her ship. She hung up on me after that, which actually saved me the effort of blocking yet another phone number. About 2.5 hours later, Derek called from yet another number. This guy must have borrowed someone else's phone because I had already blocked his personal line the day before. "You stole my sister's money, you piece of shit," he said, jumping straight into the threats. "I took my own money from an account I had legal access to," I replied calmly. He started yelling about how that $35,000 was supposed to be for Jessica's future, as if her future wasn't already completely derailed by her decision to cheat on me in the first place. He tried to threaten me again, saying that I was going to pay for this, like he was auditioning for some kind of bad action movie. I shut that down immediately. I told him that if he kept calling me and running his mouth with threats, I would have absolutely no problem filing a police report for harassment. I hung up and immediately blocked that number as well. I was starting to think that I should just change my phone number entirely, but I use it for work and didn't want to deal with the hassle of updating all my business contacts and clients. The funny thing is, I wasn't even being vindictive about the money. I could have taken all of it legally. That's exactly how joint accounts work both ways. If Jessica had gotten to the bank before me, she could have cleaned out the entire thing and left me with absolutely nothing. I actually left her with more money than she had originally contributed because I wasn't trying to screw her over financially. I was just protecting myself from someone who had already proven beyond any doubt that she couldn't be trusted. The best part about this whole situation was that I had already taken Tuesday off work to start planning that Europe trip. Originally, it was going to be for both of us. A surprise anniversary getaway to Rome and Florence that I had been secretly planning for weeks. I had been researching hotels and restaurants, putting together a whole detailed itinerary of romantic spots and cultural experiences we could share together. Now it was going to be a solo trip, funded by money that was rightfully mine, to celebrate my newfound freedom from someone who thought cheating was just a matter of needing closure. Jessica had always complained that Europe was too expensive and that we should focus on saving for the house instead. It's funny how priorities change when you're no longer saving for a future with someone who doesn't respect you or your relationship. The morning of my flight to Rome, I was standing at the airport check-in counter when I saw something that made my blood run absolutely cold. There was Jessica, sitting at gate B15 with a rolling suitcase, looking around like she was waiting for someone to arrive. She was at my gate, for my flight, the exact same flight I had booked for what was supposed to be our anniversary trip surprise. I finished checking in and walked over to see what the hell was going on. This was surreal even by the standards of everything that had happened over the past week. She spotted me immediately and jumped up from her seat with this huge smile on her face, like absolutely nothing had happened between us. Like we hadn't broken up 5 days ago, like she hadn't confessed to cheating on me at our anniversary dinner, like the police hadn't escorted her out of my house. "Tyler, I knew you'd come around eventually," she said, practically beaming. "I already checked in for the flight. I used the confirmation number from your email." The sheer audacity of it all was breathtaking. She had gone through my personal email, found the flight confirmation that I had saved as a surprise for her, and booked herself a seat on the plane. She actually thought she could just show up at the airport and everything would be magically fixed. Like cheating on me was just some minor disagreement that we could work through with a romantic European getaway. I didn't say a single word to her. I just reached into my wallet, pulled out her ticket that I had printed at home when I originally planned this as a couple's trip, and slowly tore it into pieces right in front of her face. I let the pieces fall to the airport floor like confetti. Her smile vanished instantly, replaced by a look of complete shock and disbelief. "What are you doing?" she asked, her voice getting higher and more desperate. I still didn't say anything. Sometimes silence is more powerful than any words you could possibly speak. I picked up my carry-on bag and walked to a different section of the gate area, as far away from her as possible. She followed me, of course, because Jessica has never been good at taking hints or understanding when she's not wanted. "Tyler, please." I thought this could be a fresh start for us, a chance to work things out in a romantic setting. I put in my earbuds and opened the book I had brought for the flight. She stood there for maybe 12 minutes, talking to the side of my head about how we belong together, and how what happened with Brandon didn't mean anything. She kept going on about second chances and how much she loved me. Eventually, airport security made her move along since she didn't have a valid boarding pass anymore and was bothering other passengers who were trying to wait for their flights peacefully. I watched her walk away, dragging her suitcase behind her, probably having to explain to her Uber driver why she wasn't actually going anywhere after all. Part of me wondered how she had even gotten through airport security without a proper boarding pass. But then I remembered that she works at a bank and probably knows how to talk her way past minimum wage TSA agents who don't really care about doing their jobs thoroughly. My cousin Kevin called me on day 6 of my trip while I was sitting at this incredible little cafe in Florence, drinking what was hands down the best espresso I had ever tasted in my entire life. "Dude, you need to see what Jessica posted on Facebook," he said, and I could hear the disbelief in his voice. "She has completely lost her mind." He sent me screenshots over WhatsApp, and I couldn't believe what I was reading. She had written this long, rambling post about toxic masculinity and insecure men who can't handle their girlfriend's romantic history. She made it sound like I was some kind of controlling, abusive boyfriend who had kicked her out over jealousy, instead of, her deliberately cheating on me with her ex-boyfriend. "Ladies, beware of insecure men who think they own you," the post read. "My ex couldn't handle that I have a past and literally called the police to have me removed from his house over a misunderstanding. Then he stole $35,000 from our joint account while I was at work and is now flaunting it on social media from Italy. This is what financial abuse looks like. I'm staying strong, but please keep me in your thoughts during this difficult time." A misunderstanding. She was calling her deliberate cheating a misunderstanding, like she had accidentally tripped and fallen naked onto Brandon's dick or something equally ridiculous. The comment section was mixed, but trending in a direction that she probably hadn't expected. Some of her female friends were supporting her with the usual, "you deserve better girl" bullshit, but others were asking pointed questions about what had really happened. "What kind of misunderstanding leads to police being called?" one person asked. "What exactly did you do that made him react this way?" asked another. Then Maria, our waitress from Bella Vista, showed up in the comments like an absolute angel of truth and justice. "Girl, didn't you tell your boyfriend at your anniversary dinner that you slept with your ex for closure?" she wrote. "I was your waitress that night. He gave me a $2,800 bracelet because of what you said. Maybe tell the whole story next time." That comment got 27 likes before Jessica deleted it, but screenshots live forever on the internet, and people had already started sharing it around. So I decided to post my own response. "Nothing mean or vindictive, just a simple update about my trip. Just checking in from Florence," I wrote. "Sometimes life takes unexpected turns and you realize what really matters. Grateful for family and friends who support you when people show their true colors." The response was immediate and overwhelmingly positive. People started putting the pieces together pretty quickly. If Jessica was posting about being kicked out and I was posting from Italy with money from our former joint account, it wasn't exactly rocket science to figure out what had actually happened. My cousin Kevin commented, "Living well is the best revenge." My parents both liked the post. Even my boss commented, "Enjoy the vacation, you've earned it." But the best comment came from Brandon himself. Apparently, he had seen the drama unfolding on social media and decided to distance himself from the entire situation. "Some people need to take accountability for their choices instead of blaming others," he wrote. "Hope you find peace, man." Holy shit. Even her affair partner was publicly calling her out for her behavior. Jessica responded with about 12 crying emojis and, "I can't believe you're siding with him," but the damage was already done. Brandon deleted his comment after that, but people had already seen it, and screenshots were making the rounds throughout our social circle. By the end of the day, her original post was getting more criticism than support. "So you cheated and he left you. That's not abuse, that's consequences," one person wrote. "Wait, you slept with someone else and you're mad he took his own money?" asked another. "Maria said you confessed at dinner. Is that true?" demanded a third. Jessica ended up deleting the entire post by that evening. My phone had about 65 missed calls from her family, and Derek when I finally checked it that night, but I had blocked all their numbers anyway, so it didn't matter. I just enjoyed my last night in Florence with the most peaceful sleep I had experienced in months. The flight home was bittersweet. Part of me didn't want to leave Italy and go back to dealing with all this drama, but I also felt ready to start the next chapter of my life, whatever that was going to look like. I've been back from Italy for 2 weeks now, and the first thing I did was change my locks exactly like I had planned. I also got a Ring doorbell system installed so I could see if anyone showed up at my house without having to actually deal with them face to face. This turned out to be a smart investment, as it became clear pretty quickly. It was a good thing I made that decision because Derek tried to come by my house 4 separate times last week. Each time, I just watched him on the Ring app from wherever I was, knocking on my door and yelling about how I needed to man up and face him like a real man. But I wasn't even home for any of those visits. I was either at work or deliberately staying away until he left, which usually took about 15 to 20 minutes each time. This guy apparently has way too much free time for someone who supposedly works construction full-time. He must have a very flexible schedule, or a very understanding boss to be able to show up at my house during regular business hours. He left handwritten notes under my door each time he came by. The first one said, "We need to talk man to man." The second one was more aggressive. "Stop being a coward and face me. You can't hide forever." The third note said, "Your neighbors are starting to ask questions about all this drama." The fourth one was just, "This isn't over." I saved all 4 notes and filed a police report for harassment. The officer who took my statement said that if Derek keeps showing up after being told not to come to my property, they'll arrest him for criminal trespass. Apparently, having video evidence from the Ring doorbell makes it an extremely easy case if I decide I want to press charges. Meanwhile, my cousin Kevin filled me in on everything I had missed while I was in Europe, and it's been like watching a train wreck happen in slow motion. Turns out Jessica's job at Community Trust Bank didn't appreciate her social media drama one bit. Someone, probably Maria or one of her coworkers who had heard about the restaurant incident, sent screenshots of her Facebook posts about financial abuse to her manager. Her manager called her in for a meeting and basically told her that publicly accusing someone of stealing money while representing the bank in her social media profile wasn't acceptable behavior for an employee. She got written up for unprofessional conduct on social media and had to delete all her posts about the situation. They also made her attend some kind of mandatory social media training seminar about appropriate online behavior for bank employees. Apparently, banks take their public image very seriously, especially when it comes to employees making accusations about financial crimes. The best part, though, is that Brandon wants absolutely nothing to do with her now. Turns out he's been seriously dating someone else this whole time. A yoga instructor named Ashley, who's apparently everything Jessica isn't. Confident, independent, doesn't need to sleep with her exes to figure out her feelings about her current relationships. Sometimes the trash really does take itself out. Kevin told me that Jessica has been trying to contact Brandon through social media and mutual friends, but he's completely blocked her everywhere and told their mutual friends that what happened between them was a mistake and he regrets getting involved with her again. Apparently, Ashley found out about the whole situation, and instead of being jealous or insecure about it, she just laughed and said, "Sounds like you dodged a bullet with that one." That's the kind of secure, confident woman you want to be with, not someone who needs to test drive her ex-boyfriend to figure out if she wants to be with you. Jessica has been posting passive-aggressive inspirational quotes on Instagram about second chances and forgiveness, and how some people hold grudges instead of choosing to grow as human beings. But the comments have been absolutely brutal. People keep asking if she's talking about the situation with me and reminding her that cheating isn't something you just forgive and forget like it never happened. Her cousin Lisa, who she supposedly spent that weekend with when she was actually with Brandon, finally spoke up in one of the comment threads. "Girl, you weren't even at my house that weekend," she wrote. "Stop using me as your alibi for whatever you did." Absolutely savage. So now everyone knows for certain that she lied about where she was when she was actually cheating on me. Jessica quickly deleted that post too, but again, screenshots live forever on the internet, and people had already started sharing it around. Kevin sent me a video last week of Derek at some bar downtown, completely drunk off his ass, telling anyone who would listen about how his sister got screwed over by her boyfriend and how he was going to teach me a lesson about respect. Here's the funny part. Half the people in that bar already knew the real story because word travels incredibly fast in this town, and they were just laughing at him. One guy even said, "Dude, your sister cheated and got dumped. That's not getting screwed over, that's just natural consequences." Derek apparently got so mad about this that he started a fight with some random guy who had absolutely nothing to do with our situation. He got arrested for public intoxication and assault and spent the night in jail. His mugshot made it onto the local crime Facebook page, which was shared around town pretty widely. The irony is absolutely beautiful. A guy who keeps talking about respect and honor gets arrested for starting a bar fight over his cheating sister, while I'm just living my best life and minding my own business. Meanwhile, I've been thriving. I've been going to the gym more regularly and actually enjoying it. I started taking a cooking class on Thursday nights, which has been really fun and relaxing. I've even gone on a couple of dates. Nothing serious yet. But it feels good to be putting myself out there again and meeting new people. The difference is incredible. I'm dating women who don't need closure with their exes, who can have an entire conversation without checking their phones every 2 minutes, and who actually appreciate it when you do nice things for them. It's amazing how much better dating is when you're not constantly walking on eggshells. One of them, Sarah, even said to me, "It's really refreshing to meet a guy who has his shit together and doesn't come with a bunch of drama attached." If only she knew about everything that had happened, though honestly, the drama wasn't mine. I just refused to accept it as part of my life. I got a text yesterday from an unknown number. I figured it was probably Jessica or one of her family members using someone else's phone again, but it turned out to be Maria from Bella Vista. "Hey Tyler, hope you're doing well," she wrote. "Just wanted to let you know that Jessica came in last week with some guy and asked to sit at your old table. We told her it was reserved. Thought you should know she's still trying to recreate what you two had. P.S. The bracelet helped me pay for my daughter's school books. Thank you again." That made me smile. At least something genuinely good came out of that whole mess. And the fact that Jessica is trying to recreate our relationship with some other poor guy at our old table just proves that she still doesn't understand what she actually lost. She's probably feeding him the same lines about how her ex was immature and couldn't handle her past, and how she just needed closure. That poor guy has absolutely no idea what he's getting himself into, but that's not my problem anymore. I've got my house, my money, my freedom, and for the first time in months, I'm actually excited about the future instead of worrying about what Jessica might do next or walking on eggshells around her unpredictable moods. Life is really good when you don't have to deal with someone who thinks cheating is just a misunderstanding that you should be grateful to hear about.